Hello, welcome to The Path. Today my guest is Scott Langley Sensei, a Shotokan practitioner originally from the UK, now based in Dublin. You perhaps know Langley Sensei from his books Karate Stupid, Karate Clever, and Shuri Ha, his latest collection of essays on karate. Langley Sensei was also only one of 4 foreign students to complete the JKS instructor's course in Japan. I had a great time interviewing Langley Sensei. He was very personable, and I can see why he's so popular with his students. So without further ado, let's get into the interview.
Well, thank you for agreeing to do this.
My pleasure.
And for people who might not know who you are, could you maybe give us a background of your training history? Or
Sure. Yeah. So I do Shotokan karate, and I actually started martial arts back when I was 5 years old in 1977, 78. And I started jiu-jitsu in Liverpool in the UK. And jiu-jitsu was really big there. But my family moved away from Liverpool when I was about 9, 10, and I started karate when I was 10 years old in West Yorkshire in the UK, and then I started properly when I was 12 in North Yorkshire in the UK, and that was Shotokan karate under the leadership of Sadishige Kato, who was originally a student of Kanazawa Sensei and now has his own large multinational organization. And I trained there until I left the UK in 97 and went to Japan. And then I was in Japan from 97 till 2002. I trained with Tetsuhiko Isai Sensei, who was the head of one of the splits of the JKA at that time. And then we subsequently became the JKS. And I was the first person to enter the JKS instructor's course with another chap called Yasuhisa Inada in 2000. And I graduated from the JKS instructor's course in 2002, and then moved to Ireland, where I'm resident now since October 2002.
So your early training when you're quite young, is the jiu-jitsu like? I guess it's not the same as the Brazilian jiu-jitsu. It's more like a Japanese version,
No.
or?
Yeah, so it was the World Jiu-Jitsu, or it is the World Jiu-Jitsu Federation, still going. And actually, I mean, I was really young, so I knew nothing about it. It was just my best friend wanted to go. He didn't want to go by himself, so my parents suggested that I go with him, which I did. And he quickly quit, and I continued and loved it, and I've basically wanted to do martial arts ever since. But like looking at the history, it's a bit murky. But it's definitely Japanese-based jiu-jitsu. I mean, of course, Brazilian jiu-jitsu at the time, although obviously, of course, the Gracie family were going, it wasn't known. And Brazilian jiu-jitsu wasn't a thing back in the late 70s.
No.
Yeah, it's definitely a Japanese version of jiu-jitsu.
And I'm not too familiar with jiu-jitsu, just from what I've watched on YouTube or whatever, but I guess it's some striking and some throws, or?
Yeah, it was definitely a kind of blend of kicking, punching, striking, and the classic kind of throws, but much more kind of on your feet rather than what we've classified jiu-jitsu now, like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, kind of taken to the ground and ground and pound type kind of martial art. This was much more a kind of locks, throws, and sweeps, and always remaining on your feet, or most of the time remaining on your feet. Yeah, I was only 5, 6, 7 years old, so yeah. my knowledge of it is blurry at best.
So was there any particular reason why you decided to? Is Shotokan correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any particular reason why you chose Shotokan, or?
No, I mean I didn't choose really. It was like, I think probably a lot of people's experiences, it was just the nearest dojo. In fact, in the town that we eventually moved to and settled in, it was the only dojo. There was no other martial arts there, and I was really lucky that I walked into a great dojo with a great instructor, which had a great lineage to Japan, and yeah, luck luck was the overwhelming factor that made me end up where I am today.
And what did the training consist of back when you were quite young? 12.
Yeah, like it was a classic basic Shotokan karate. So a lot of basics, a lot of marching up and down the dojo, a lot of sparring, and also kind of the kata, like bog standard karate. I mean, but I was lucky that my instructor, a guy called Howard Milson, he was a fifth dan at the time, and so this was like '85. So fifth dan in 1985 was kind of a fairly high grade. You know, I think probably the highest ranking non-Japanese at the time would have been sixth dan. So he was up there and very legitimate with it, and very skillful. But he also had a great sense of humor, a great teaching style, and so that was what really kind of really he was really engaging, and so he was bog standard in every way apart from the teacher who was exceptionally engaging and funny.
And how often would the classes meet? Was it like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday thing, or they have every day?
So when I was a kid, I was only allowed to train once a week. They had two classes a week, on a Monday and a Thursday, and the Thursday was for adults only, and even like the kids, there was no kids class. It was just I think you were maybe 11, 12 years old. You were allowed to start, and then the Thursday class was like only adults. And so for the first couple of years, I only did the Monday, and then I got to I think 14, and he let me in the adult class, and I was the only kid in the whole of the adult class, and I did that until I was 16, and then my parents also started taking me through to York, and I'd do a Wednesday class there. So it was like, I don't know, 15 miles, 20 kilometers away. So I'd do a Wednesday class there, and each class was 2 hours long. And so I did three classes a week until probably I was 18, and then I was doing lots of weekend seminars, and then I went to university, and it was every day.
I guess from my understanding, it was the Shotokan was pretty big throughout most of Europe. Like I don't hear a lot of like Japanese Goju-ryu in Europe as much as I do hear about Shotokan.
Yeah. I think the JKA had a great policy of, well, they had two things. They had the instructors course, which was producing professional, top quality instructors, like 2-3 of them per year, and they were producing them at a time when the world was crying out for martial arts instructors, and they just sent them all over the world. And so there was a massive teaching team that was sent to Europe and a massive teaching team sent to America, and they monopolized the market really early on. And so Shotokan, is huge. If people think about karate in Europe, they generally think about Shotokan karate.
Yeah, that's what my impression was. A lot of my friends from Europe generally started in Shotokan. If they're still not doing it, they're still doing Shotokan, or they've moved on to something else. But most people tend to start in Shotokan, it seems. So what was the, I guess Shotokan has got, and quite a bit into the more of the sport end of the, what am I trying to say? It's more like, there's a bit more emphasis on the competition, or?
I think, I think a spectrum is really the best way to see not only Shotokan, but I think all karate. And you've got some styles that are permanently rooted in the very traditional end of the spectrum, and you've got, well, not really styles, but you've got some groups who are very firmly rooted in the sports spectrum. The Shotokan I did was very much traditional, although competition was certainly an aspect of it. And it was important as long as you did it. Like competition was a very much a rite of passage. So it was something that you did to kind of test your mettle, to prove yourself, to challenge yourself in the short or medium term. But it wasn't the overwhelming or any real kind of factor in why you did karate. Whereas, of course, there are other Shotokan karate groups where it is almost the only factor of why you do karate. So it's it's a huge spectrum, and even within organizations. So within the group that I'm part of now, we have people who are very, very enthusiastic about competition and would do a lot of training and activities around competition. And within the same group, we've got people who would never have any interest in it whatsoever. But for me, it was something that I did, but not really something that I put any great, I don't know, emphasis or effort into.
And so we've covered your all the way up to Japan now, and then you decide to move to Japan to study some more, or what was the impetus of
I heard about the instructor's course when I was a kid, when I was like 13, 14 years old, and so the great European karate instructor had all come through the JK instructor's course, and I'd heard that there was like only a few foreigners that had. There's quite a few that had attempted it, but only 4 of them that had really had graduated from it. And so I kind of went to Japan with the secret desire to do the instructor course, and so that's what I did. I went initially. I was working for Nova, which is now a bankrupt English school.
Mm-hmm.
They got my visa, and I worked for them for a year. But I was training daily at the JK headquarters, the Asai Sensei fraction of the JK headquarters. And then after a year, I quit Nova and I took a cultural visa from the JK headquarters. So I was there just solely to study karate, and that's what I did until I left. And in 2000, the JK court case was eventually finished, and we gave in, kind of decided to no longer fight. Basically, we had to change our name, so we became the JKS, and it was at that point that I entered the instructor's course.
When I was reading your book, Karate Stupid, you mentioned about the course, but I don't know if you explicitly mentioned how long the course was. It's more than a year, I think, right?
Yeah. It's a minimum of a 2-year course. So generally speaking, minimum 2 years. I had to do 2.5 years. Some people can have to do up until 5 years. One chap, it took him 5 years to graduate. So generally speaking, minimum of 2. And when they decide you're good enough, they allow you to graduate.
And is it just how's the training different from the regular training sessions that we might have in the dojo?
I think like the thing about the instructor's course is that it's only 5 days a week, 2 hours a day. So you train from 12 o'clock until 2 p.m. So over lunchtime, basically. And the Hombu Dojo instructors all train on that in that period. And training is tough for sure. It's intensive and it's non-stop. Lots of tube training, so like resistance band training, lots of weight training, lots of sparring, and endless kihon, endless basics up and down. Added to that is the constant pressure. So your senpai and sensei are constantly behind you, watching, kind of prodding, pushing. It becomes all consuming, I think, and the intensity is nothing that I've experienced anywhere else in the world, and that is what pushes you to kind of keep on going. Like there's I don't know, maybe 50-75% dropout rate. There's people that have really suffered on the instructor's course, and the only way that you can kind of should I say please your instructors or your senpai is by improving, is by doing it better. So over the 2, 3, 4, 5 year period that you're on the course, your karate radically changes.
Well, just training 10 hours a week would probably be enough to improve your karate quite a bit.
but to be fair, like before I started the instructor's course, I was training that much anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was at university, I was training that much. I think, you know, and when I went to Japan, I was training that much. Time is, of course, important, but I think it's the intensity of it as well, and the demands that are put upon you to keep up with elite professional athletes, and so you have to raise your game very quickly. And if you don't, then you know you get the consequences, and the consequences are that you're sparring these guys daily, and they're not really pulling their punches. So yeah, that's not push.
I find most people, they fall into one of two camps. They think that instruction is everything. They'll get everything by if they just absorb enough material. And there's the other group that just think that if they put in the time, everything will just come.
Yeah.
And I always think it's got to be both of those things. It can't be one of them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's 50% academic knowledge and 50% physical talent. But ultimately, I think it's a physical knowledge. Karate is a physical knowledge, and if you're not understanding how your body works, then you can't, no matter what you understand on a conceptual level, you can't put it into practice. And so the only way that you can develop or enhance physical intelligence is by using your body. And the only way that you can do that is by making sure that you're as strong and as flexible and as fit and as fast as you possibly can be. Otherwise, everything else is purely academic. Mike Tyson says, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you have to go through that intense training to understand on a physical level what your body is capable
of. So all my background has always been Okinawan karate, and I've known people from mainland systems, but I've never actually trained in any of them. And I was in reading your book, I was kind of shocked in how it was almost the exact opposite of your experience compared to mine. I found the dojo a nice refuge from the rest of Japan when everything else was like in Japan was sort of getting to me. I could always go to the dojo and it was fun, and they're quite supportive. And so
I have to say though, like that was my experience as well until I entered the instructor's course. And I think like the instructor's course was once described as the hornet's nest. Like the old JK instructor's course was like the hornet's nest, where it's such a distilled microcosm of Japanese society, like the most extreme brutality of the senpai kohai relationship, the most extreme reality of just the budo, the martial sense of the art. It's a bit like, for example, the SAS, which are the British Special Forces. They practice with live rounds, and 2/3 of the injuries and fatalities within the SAS are done during training. 2/3 during training, and the rationale is that they train to the extreme to produce the best in the world. Now, is that normal? Absolutely not. Is that trying to is that a standard that wants to be pushed out to all the armed services? Absolutely not. But it's such a distilled kind of. I'm trying not to use the word elite, but like the elite of what is possible, the extreme of what's possible, in order to push the envelope, to make sure that the whole of the martial art is pulled forward with the front runners, the elite people who are going through the instructor's course.
So is there any what would you say, besides pushing your karate forward, that you kind of learned about karate or about yourself when you were doing that kind of training?
I think the instructor's course was purely physical, and I, to be honest, I don't think I learned anything about karate whilst I was there. having said that, I had some really, really good instructors before I went to Japan. And even whilst I was in Japan, I had some great instructors. I don't think I learned anything whilst I was on the instructor's course, but what they did do is give me the equipment to deeply understand my own karate after I'd gone through that experience. So my experience within the instructor's course is invaluable. Like it gave me the control and physicality that has allowed me to, I hope, still continue to develop my karate today. And that's not to say, so I can't kind of pinpoint and say, okay, I learned this, and this within the instructor's course. But what I did do was get a foundation that is still underpinning what I do today.
Would you say that you kept the brutal aspect of it, or do you think did you drop that?
No.
Or
Yeah, so I was very careful and very clear with myself, and I guess others around me at the time, that I saw it for what it was, and it was a means to an end. And I think you often get where the abused become the abuser, and like it's just that's how you're expected to behave. And I was very careful to make sure that I never fell into that category. And so my dojo is the antithesis of what the instructor's course used to be like, and it's a very hopefully friendly, nurturing type of place. And I don't take kindly to people who don't use control, who are excessively heavy-handed or brutal. So that is not part of my karate at all. Having said that, I do recognize that sometimes there is at the end of the day, we are kicking and punching. At the end of the day, we are practicing a martial art. I just don't think that it should be to the level that it was on the instructor's course for normal people. But I'm very clear to point out, and I've done this in the past, that I don't think the instructor's course was wrong. And I chose to go to do the instructor's course. And I did choose on a daily basis to go to that dojo and train there. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the system that they have. I just don't think it should be then taken to the masses. Just like special forces training shouldn't be the training that the masses of the armed forces should have.
Is there a lot of I guess Hojo Undo, like weightlifting and running and things like that, or
no? So not like in the Okinawan sense. No. Occasionally we use Tetsugeta. Occasionally, and we do it for slow kicking. That was it. And that's the only time that you would like a traditional kind of Okinawan kind of Goju-ryu or a traditional Okinawan karateka would recognize anything of in a connection to the old Hojo Undo. We did Tetsugeta occasionally, but what we did do a lot of was tube training. So we'd have these big, like massive elastic bands, like 3 meters long and thick, kind of very kind of heavy elastic bands that would produce resistance. And we would do a lot of kind of around our core, around our tanden or center, and we'd be pushing against the bands. We'd have them in our arms or our legs. We're practicing punching, kicking, that type of thing, which produced or helped to produce explosive power. Because I think, obviously, Shotokan is a medium to long range kind of style. And competition, generally speaking, is a medium to long range style. So there was a lot of that kind of going from a safe distance to an explosive movement to score a point. So we would do a lot of that kind of training, which was good for competition. I also think it's good for other aspects of martial arts or Budo, but we did a lot of that kind of explosive training during
your goal or aim when you're training. What do you think about why you do it? I think most people do it because they like it, but do you have any other like motivations?
Well, now personally,
yeah.
Why do I train? I think because it makes the rest of life easy. Like it's something that I've done, and it kind of I push myself. Like so, I still actually do kind of instructors class training with my own group. So I have a professional dojo now in Dublin. We have a handful of professional instructors, and there's like 3 mornings a week. We do there's like half a dozen of us that do the same type of training as I did in Japan, and it's tough. It's really tough training, and once you do that, it kind of makes life easy. Everything else in comparison is easy. Kind of purifies, dare I say, purifies the soul. It kind of gives you a sense of achievement and purpose through the day. It kind of settles. For me, it settles my body. I'm not. If I've done morning training, instructors training, then I'm not twitchy. I'm not kind of eager to do something. I'm just relaxed through the day. So on a physical level and on a simple level, it kind of sets me up for the day and keeps me focused. And I think on a deeper level, I do it because I want to be. I've always wanted to be the best in the world, and I'd always settle for being the best I can be. So I'm always kind of looking forward about what I can achieve within karate, but quite happy to look behind and go, well, this is what I have achieved, and give myself kind of a sense of achievement, just so I'm not overly pushing myself, where I destroy joints and stuff like that. So for me, that morning training, the continued training program that I do, it will eventually allow me to fulfill my potential, which is ultimately what I've always wanted to do.
And do you have any metrics to measure this achievement, or is it just more of like how you feel, or?
Yeah, no, like I think the ultimate metric is me. I've got to a point now within my career that I'm no longer looking for external, satisfaction. I'm not looking for people to give me the nod and say, yes, you're doing that right, I've reached a point. I've been training Shotokan karate now 35 years, and so I'm developing my own way of doing things. I think that's not to say that I don't have senpai still in my life who give me lots of ideas and feedback and inspiration, but I'm certainly not looking for I'm not looking for someone to kind of give me credit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think I was maybe not the external validation. I was more about like how do you gauge your improvement from before?
Okay, like purely physically,
or just like on a technical basis, or like if you're trying to improve, like if you're trying to be the best version of yourself, what does that entail?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite difficult. I mean, we're in this kind of digital age now where it's quite nice sometimes because of, I've been putting videos on YouTube for a long time. And before then I had videos online. So I've got a load of videos, like instructional videos, and also just me performing that I sometimes look back at. And like I was watching an instructional video that I did years ago about I think it was a side snap kick, and I was watching it, and everything that I said back 10 years ago, 15 years ago maybe, I still agree with today, but now I would have added so much more, and so that's certainly a great metric. That what I was thinking about then, I kind of still hold as being true, not in a dogmatic way, but certainly in a way that I think, okay, generally speaking, that was kind of accurate. But now I can see much more hidden, or not hidden, but I think my understanding has greater depth. So that's a great way of seeing things. I recently posted a video of me doing a kata back in the European Championships 25 years ago, and then put it next to me doing the same kata that was taken last month. And there's 25 years difference. I was 21 and now I'm 46, and actually, they kind of look quite similar. If I had to choose, I actually prefer the kata I'm doing now. So
I actually just watched that video just before we started. I just watched that video.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It was kata, I think you're doing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So those are quite nice ways of deciding. But it's I think if you start kind of trying to judge yourself so much, like there's loads of things that I could do then that I can't do now, and there's I think it's much more about the journey and how you're experiencing it and what you're gaining from it, and I think I've always tried to strive for balance in my karate. Not only kind of like I don't want to be lazy, I don't want to be kind of a workaholic, I don't want to be kind of fanatical about it, I don't want to destroy my body, nor do I want to not fulfill my potential. So I think just the ability to maintain that balance over the last 35 years is ultimately what I'm looking for.
What are the common injuries in Shotokan? Is it knees or hips or?
A lot of hip injuries, actually. Yeah. I like. There's always a debate about this, like yes, there's a lot of hip injuries, but also generally speaking, there's very few other sports, certainly as athletic and as explosive as what you maybe classify Shotokan karate as, where people are doing it for consistently, weekly, daily in some cases, for 30, 40, 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I was looking at Andy Murray, who is a 31-year-old tennis player from the UK, and he just announced his retirement because he needs a new hip replacement. Mm-hmm. He's 31 years old. And you think, well, like, yeah, he's been at the top of his game for the last decade, got to world #1, but he can't play anymore because he's thinking, if I continue to play, I will destroy my body, and I've got a 3-year-old kid that I want to play with. So I think karateka, especially, well, not especially, but like in my experience, Shotokan karateka, who are doing explosive movements constantly, daily in some cases, and they're doing it for 30, 40 years. Well, it's no wonder that a hip or two go over time.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot of knees and hips, and just about all of my friends all have, well, a lot of them have their knees or hips replaced, or
yeah.
So have you been pretty lucky of avoiding injuries, or?
Well, I have no ACL in my left knee, which is at the anterior cruciate ligament, which is probably the most. I have torn meniscus. I have a ruptured MCL in my right knee. But other than that, I'm fine. The thing is that, and like none of that was through karate, really. In fact, none of it was through karate. Skiing, being stupid, normal things. And what actually karate has done is give me, I was told that I would never be able to do karate unless I had my ACL repaired. I never did. It's been 20 years, and my left leg is fine. And I have a doctor who's I have a student who's a top orthopedic surgeon in my dojo. And he's like, "Don't worry about it. You're fine." Like when he first started training with me, he couldn't believe I didn't have any ACL. So I think I think there's always, the body's a great way of adapting and compensating, and so I trust in my body. I take care of it. I have lots of physio to make sure that it's preventative rather than I make sure that any problems are sorted out before they become a big problem, and that's it.
I was my understanding, you have at least 2 books and perhaps 3.
Yeah. I have. I wrote Karate Stupid and Karate Clever, which are kind of autobiographical accounts of my time within the JKS. And I did publish a 3rd book last year, which is, I've been writing articles for decades, and unfortunately, one of my instructors, who was teaching for me full time for a good number of years, she passed away last year, and I wanted to, actually, sorry, the year before now, but I wanted to do something in her honor. So I put I cherry picked 35 of the articles I've written over the years and put them in a book. I called it Shuhari, Evolving Karate Thought, and I published that, and with all the profits going to cancer research. So that was the 3rd book I wrote. and I've just finished a fourth book actually. My editor had convinced me that I should write a novel, so I've just written a novel. So whether that goes anywhere or not, I don't know. I just literally just sent it to my editor 2 days ago.
So the books you've got published, people can get those through Amazon or?
Yeah. If you just search "Karate Stupid" Amazon, then it'll come up straight away.
Ah, okay. And your newest novel, is it set in any place or Japan or?
No, it's a kind of spy midlife crisis satirical kind of, I don't know, that sort of genre, that famous genre. It's like it's basically I'll give you the short and the explanation. When I was a kid, I wanted to go into the army, and I wanted to go into the SAS because I thought, that's really tough. That's what I want to do. And then I found out about the instructor's course, and there was only 4 people in the world, or four foreigners in the world that had graduated from it. I thought, okay, I'm going to be number 5th. I'm going to be the 5th one, and that's what happened. That's what I did do. But so the novel is basically me if I had not gone to Japan but gone into the SAS and then become a spy, all that silly stuff. But I enjoyed writing it, so we'll see what happens.
And is there any sort of timetable when it would be released, if it does go anywhere?
I have no idea. So with my previous experience with books, it can take an awful long time. So best case scenario, it could be out in spring. Worst case scenario, it never gets published. But it could take 6 months. It could take 2 years.
Okay. So you graduate from the instructor's course, and then you move back to the UK, and then
so I moved to Ireland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I am from the UK. I'm from Liverpool a long time ago, but I moved to Ireland, and so I've been based in Dublin since I moved back from Japan. Yeah. So I opened up just a dojo at the time, and at the time the JKS was only 2 years old, and they had no affiliates in UK, Ireland, and most of Europe. Actually, there was one affiliate in Switzerland. That was kind of it. So I kind of tried to push the JKS within Europe, and of course my own dojo in Dublin.
Are you still associated with them, or?
No. So yeah, that's dealt with in the second book, Karate Clever. So I think the issue was that I went from kind of doing the good thing and pushing the JKS and promoting it within Europe, and then all of a sudden the JKS GB in Ireland, well, not all of a sudden, probably so that's 2002, probably by 2010, the JKS GB in Ireland was bigger than the JKS in Japan. We had 120 dojos, we had 8,000 members. We were probably the jewel within the JKS crown in terms of size and power and just what we were doing. And I was the head, and my senpai back in Japan maybe just were uncomfortable that I was having this amount of, or they perceived it as me having a lot of power and control, and things slowly soured over the next couple of years. And so by 2013, things were not great. My relationship between my senpai in Japan and me, and I was always trying to fight for what people in Europe and even further afield kind of wanted, and I was kind of a thorn in the side a little bit maybe. And so I wrote Karate Stupid, and they saw that as a opportunity to I guess punish me, and they suspended me, and they took away JKS GB in Ireland, they took away my organization and said that I was no longer involved in it in any way, and they forbid me from teaching anywhere outside my own dojo in Dublin for 2 years as a punishment, not for publishing the book, just for writing it, because by that point we'd gone backwards and forwards, and I'd promised that I would never publish it. I said, okay, I understand. They never read it. Of course, they don't speak English, so they've never read the book. They just said, no, you can't write a book, you can't publish it. And I argued, and blah, blah, blah. And then I said, okay, for the sake of the organization, I won't publish. And they went, okay, but we're going to punish you still. And for 2 years, I got a ban. So at that point, I had to leave. And so I left, and that was 5 years ago now.
So you just start your own organization then, or did you still find someone else in Japan to associate with?
No, so at that time, I had a very close senpai of mine who was the fourth foreigner to complete the instructor's course, a gentleman called Richard Amos. He was an exceptional karateka who's based in New York, and his organization is called the WTKO, the World Traditional Karate Organization. And so I was always close to him, and I deeply respect him. And so I joined his organization, and a lot of people followed me. And the WTKO arguably kind of doubled in size over a couple of year period. So his reputation and my reputation together, I think, worked really well, and it was very attractive for a big amount or a large group of disenfranchised Shotokan karateka. And so the WTKO was doing well. But again, the evidence is that I must be the arse, because he expelled me almost 2 years ago now, a year last March, completely out of the blue, very publicly, posted on Facebook. Scott has been expelled from the WTKO, and to this day I still don't know why. So it is what it is. So at that point, my journey led to going, okay, I will set up my own organization. So in March 2017, I set up the HDKI, which is Hombu Dojo Karate International. And so far we have 12 international affiliates over North America, Europe, India, Sri Lanka. So for something that's not even 2 years old, we're doing okay.
I found that many people who are in your situation, they end up having quite a bit more freedom when they're either kicked out of an organization or their teacher dies or something. They can go around to and visit who they want and associate with whoever they want. And
yeah, I think that was always that's always been my attitude. Even when I was in the JKS, I would always invite people who were non-JKS, just because that's what my students deserved. And no one instructor can be everything to all their students. So it did, I would argue, irritate my seniors, both within the JKS and also subsequently in the WTKO, for being kind of I don't know, not particularly towing the party line and just only inviting WTKO or JKS instructors. And so actually now that I'm HDKI, we still continue to invite whoever we want, which is what I've always done. It's just that now there's no one above me to tell me that I can't do it. So it's great.
Yeah, that's nice freedom to have.
Yeah. I think they I think people. I've been thinking about it a lot recently. People kind of, there's lots of offshoots from what was the JKA, and the JK kind of really first developed that model for a global karate organization. They spread karate all over the world and controlled it. Nakayama Sensei controlled it very strongly. But in the 70s, Kanazawa Sensei split and formed the SKIF. In '89, Nakayama Sensei passed away. It split, and since then it's been fragmented, and split. And it's, the JKA went from a globally dominant organization to now arguably still a very powerful worldwide organization, but a shadow of its former self. And there's lots of people that have then left and formed their own groups. And then they all model their groups on the JKA. And the JKA model obviously is not sustainable. There's no longevity in it. It lasted from 1955 until arguably 1989. And then since 1989, it's been in decline. But still, there's a whole load of organizations who still to this day go, that's the only way, that draconian, top-heavy, hierarchical system where it's controlled by one or two elite at the top. And it doesn't work. Demonstrably, it doesn't work. So I think for me, I want to avoid that at all costs, and have a much more flat system where people are kind of treated with respect and allowed to develop their own karate rather than being dictated to, even after they've been training 30, 40, 50 years.
Mm-hmm. Those flat power structures have always been appealing to me as well. People just tend to associate because they like each other and they agree with each other on certain things rather than being told what to do or told they had to do something.
Yeah, for sure.
I think
Which
the longevity
is the basis of any community.
Yeah, the longevity is going to be, I think, it has to be better than being dictated to all the time by somebody.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's the difference between a finite game and an infinite game. Like everyone's trying to play the finite game. It's like a game of soccer where the amount of players and the rules and the time and who wins at the end. But there's no winning in friendship, for example. There's no winning in marriage. You can't have a number one in marriage. You can't have a number one in a community. It's not about kind of trying to be number one. It's just trying to stay in the game as long as possible. It's an infinite game. And we want to be in the infinite game as long as possible. So that means that we just kind of try to create a structure that has sustainability at the foundation.
So do you, I guess you go around to different countries doing seminars and things like that, or?
Yeah, I travel probably 40 weekends a year. Yeah, so January I don't really do anything. August I don't really do anything. But the rest of the time I'm traveling.
And are you open to going pretty much anywhere and training anyone, or?
Yeah.
So if people want to
sure,
get, if anybody wants to get a hold of you, is there a way they can email or something like that, or?
Yeah, it's fairly easy. I'm open, of course, to kind of going to anybody. But my email address is simply scott@hdki.org. Or I'm on Facebook. It's like if you Google me and HDKI, or just Google me, it's very easy to get hold of me. But yeah, I'm always willing to kind of spread the love,
Well, we're coming up on 50 minutes here. Is there anything else that you'd like to say, or?
No, like I say, I don't often get the luxury of talking about myself in such glowing terms. So I'm quite happy for the opportunity. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for agreeing to do this. And